Good afternoon. Welcome to the Meredith Select Board Workshop of October 20th, 2014 at the Meredith Community Center. At this time, I'll introduce the board members. Hillary Seaver.
Good afternoon.
Lou Kahn.
Good afternoon.
Nathan Torr.
Good afternoon.
Vice Chair Peter Brothers.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I'm Carl Warren. Phil Warren, my town manager.
Good afternoon.
Our town manager. And Karen Landry, our recording clerk. We have two items this afternoon on the workshop agenda. The first one being W14-25, land lease proposal. Bill, you want to update us on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Town received a proposal from State of New Hampshire, the Department of Transportation, and it's actually, the request comes from the Council on Resources and Development, excuse me. And it is a proposed lease of land on Needle Eye Road, and apparently by law, they are required to send it to the town for their comment. This is the result of a encroachment on the rail line that goes from Lincoln to Concord, which abuts Lake Winnipesaukee, and it is in the town of Meredith. And in this case, it is for the Needle Eye Association, and they are looking to get a lease from the state of New Hampshire for 50 to 300 linear feet for a lease of the railroad waterfront property for 5 years with a provision for a 5-year renewal. And currently there is a dock there, but the Needle Eye Association does not have an agreement with the state. They would be looking for access to the water across the railroad right-of-way, a beach and maintenance of their dock, which exists today for recreational purposes. On their application, it states that there's no new development and that there are structures located on the property. It's a dock that encroaches into the railroad corridor, and you also have attached a plan. Actually, it's an engineer. You have a locus map, and you have an aerial photo, and you also have an engineered plan of the dock, of the requested land lease. If the board so chooses to comment on this matter, it would be necessary that by the information given to us from the New Hampshire Office of Energy and Planning, that the Council on Resources and Development will consider this request at its next meeting, which is scheduled for November 13, 2014. And if we did have any interest in this transaction, we would have to notify them by November 7th.
Any questions from the board members? Or comments?
Madam Chair, just a little bit of background on this. I believe this is our first notification on this particular issue, but it's also been my understanding, working for a local bank, that as a mortgagee, we've been notified now for about a year or so that the state of New Hampshire was going to exercise its rights and either terminate coverage or enter into lease agreements with individuals who that happen to apply to. And I personally have been involved with 5 or 6 of them along the corridor just leading into Alton Bay. So it came to my knowledge probably a year ago or so that this was there. It appears to me that this is a technicality in that they must ask us for our input, and I assume that's under the statute. But there really isn't too much other impact, I don't believe, on the town of Meredith. It's the individual lot owners, or in this case, it's a formal association that is entering into a lease agreement. It appears to me that it's all about finding revenue, which we've encouraged everybody to do here as well, and it looks like the state has found a way to reasonably accomplish that. So that's just a little bit of background as I understand it for the benefit of the public and some of my fellow board members who may not be familiar with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Other comments?
I think Peter took most of the way. I think this
Okay.
is, for us, it's just something that appears, that's all.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Phil?
generally when the state either has a land transaction, whether it's a disposal of surplus land or leasing of land, we are notified. If you remember, in the not-too-distant past, there was a piece of surplus land off in the Boynton Road neighborhood that we were notified if we had any interest on it, and I think at that time we passed. But this is standard fare. As Peter had said, we probably will see more of these. Today you have one existing that I'm aware of, and that is the Upper Mile Point Association. If you remember back in 2005, 2006, there was some discussion regarding their lease, and they have an agreement where they can cross the tracks to access their dock structure and system.
Madam Chair, I believe the transaction that Phil is referring to in 2005 was the, shall we say, the cause for this going forward. It's just taken that long,
Really?
where the surveys and things probably, and notifications and those other things. But they actually entered into a formal agreement.
Yes.
But that was, as you remember, a newer subdivision. And so they sought and had to receive permission to do that, and the state leased that with, under different terms. But and I don't remember what the terms were, but it was a similar type of scenario with a period of time and then some renewal options. But I believe that's, my guess is, from what I know of the history, that's what kicked it off.
I just have one question, Phil. Maybe, I don't know, Peter, or maybe you can answer it for me. In the request for land review action, the proposed use, it states proposed beach and maintenance of dock. And then question 3 asks, does the proposed use entail new development? And it says no, so proposed beach would not be considered new development.
Yes, the beach is not on the state right-of-way. The beach is outside the right-of-way.
Okay.
And it is existing, and has been. I mean, I've walked it several times over the years.
Any other comments? Okay, so I guess we need to bring it.
My intent here would be that if the board felt that this was an item they wanted to take action on, we would put it on the November 2nd agenda. But if the board does not feel that there is any interest in either the transaction or B, the merits of the transaction, then we could dispose of it at this time.
Okay. All in agreement with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Next item on the workshop.
Excuse me just a second, was that to put it on the agenda, or was there a consensus that there was no real merit in doing so?
Thank you.
Because it is B that I was nodding my head to.
So you don't, there's no comment the board wants to offer at this time?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. W14-26, Antique Boat Show Proposal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Scott Robinson from the Antique Boat Show is here, and just so you know, I met with Scott about a month ago, regarding some issues and improvements that could happen regarding the Antique Boat Show. So Scott, if you could do me a favor and just take a seat right there, introduce yourself and explain your proposal. I think you brought someone with you too to help with that.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
This is Glenn Fuller of Watermark.
Okay.
I am the Antique and Classic Boat Society.
Could you just make sure the light
Is
is
the little red
on?
light on that microphone? If not, just push that silver button.
The light on?
Excellent, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, I'm Scott Robinson, your show chairman for the Antique and Classic Boat Show. And that is the local chapter of the Antique and Classic Boat Society. I'm here today to propose to you a situation where we get subsidized in a way by Watermark and Ambrose and several other companies in the past have brought barges to our show, and I have a picture here, a laminated picture, that shows how we tie the boats up. We have many more boats than we have slips here. I mean, this year was an exception, we didn't have as many as we usually do, but, and of course, when we ask for generous donation, Watermark every year says, sure, we'll bring a barge up, we'll do whatever you need. And so what we're proposing is something so that their barges never get used again and they can pursue more business instead of helping us out. And it would help the ACBS out too, our chapter, because we would not have to be begging and pleading with them every time to come help us. I'll let Glenn here propose what the solution would be.
One of the issues we had this year was we couldn't mobilize the barge there. It was in the middle of the job, there's no way it could leave. So we had to come up with another system. It was a matter of bringing home. We bought a bunch of special anchors to tie off a smaller barge so we could connect the ropes to it. And basically, you can see from these pictures, we're just trying to put a center rope down between the three main docks so they can tie the boats off and hang them out straight and help facilitate getting, up to 100 boats into that area. So our proposal was to substitute the security of the barges with these 3,000-pound mooring blocks that would sit on the bottom. We came up with an idea to put the mooring blocks with chain coming up to a buoy that would sit underwater. There's approximately 25 feet of water out there in some spots. So we're talking about putting 4 blocks out there so we could triangulate the tie-offs to make it secure. So basically, we're talking about buoys and rigging and dropping off the mooring blocks rather than bringing the barges down there. A system that would work so we could keep doing our stuff and not have, it's nice to have the barges down there for advertising, but it costs us a fortune. There's close to 25 feet of water out there, which requires us to buy 45 to 50-foot pilings just to fit down the spud wells to secure the barge, and it's a logistical nightmare year after year. And when they called it this year, there was no barges available. You couldn't get Ambrose. No one was available. Everyone's just straight out. We had so much ice damage this year, we just couldn't move. So we're trying to come up with another system, something that would help tie up boats year after year after year. We came up with a system. It's a 4-block tie-off. I've got a proposal of how much it's going to cost. And probably $4,300 in parts and $2,400 in labor to drop these 4 blocks off, have them rigged up and usable for the show. So I've got a write-up on it, and I've got some pictures to show how I was going to show it, set it up. So I didn't know where Scott wants to take it from there, but
Go ahead, if you want to keep going.
well, I've got it itemized on here on what it's going to cost. I got some pictures that shows the setup, what it's been in the past. I have a drawing here that shows how the moorings would be underwater and just under the surface. Technically, you would need a permit for these because you're underwater. It's not until you put a buoy on top of the water that you actually need a permit. And my thought is the boat club would be using a boat to tie off to this buoy, then running their lines to shore. So technically, there wouldn't be a buoy exposed in the water. They'd only be using it for the weekend. There's probably no reason why you couldn't get a permit for these buoys if you wanted to put a buoy on it, but I don't see why you need a buoy.
Hillary?
Hi, Hillary Seeger. I have a question as to who would be assuming the $8,700 cost.
Not me.
We haven't
Thought
We
87.
have no assumption that anybody is assuming the cost yet. We're just proposing what our proposal would be.
67.
We're not,
I did add wrong.
I apologize for adding wrong, 6,700.
obviously, we would love the town to assist us, and I've taken this, he did the same presentation to our board of directors, so they know the same thing you do. I assume you'll make a decision on what you want to do. If you want to do nothing, we're still doing it the same way, and I'm asking them to bring their barges, but at some point, someday, he's gonna say, I can't come. Like this year, Ambrose couldn't come. Every other company that had barges, I called multiple times and begged them literally. They said, no, absolutely not. So there's gonna be a point in time where there'll be no barges, which will make us reduce the amount of boats that come.
Peter?
Madam Chairman, I guess when I look at the model here, I'm assuming that the organization is a nonprofit 501c.
Yes.
I know the town historically has tried to encourage certain events that bring in either employment or value to the residents of Meredith. But my first reaction is that the cost, obviously is not really, should not be at this point in time, at least in my considered opinion, absorbed by the town. I do think that it makes some sense, but a couple of other little technicalities. Who owns it when it goes below the surface? Who controls that part of it? How far below the surface is that from a safety perspective? And does it constitute ownership in terms of use by other organizations, other individuals, or anybody else who may hook up if it's town or your property? Any thoughts on
I
that?
don't think the ACBS wants it as their property. It will be on your land, and you can use it as you see fit,
The issue, if I may do as a follow-up, is that my understanding is once you get out of the water, it's the state of New Hampshire, not the town of Meredith, New Hampshire. So
That's correct.
that piece of it begs some of my follow-up questions, and quite frankly, why the town of Meredith would want to invest in something that they don't own necessarily. So, I guess what I'd like is maybe a little bit more conversation coming back to you, and whether other organizations have had similar experiences and how they may have dealt with those.
It seems like we should also have to notify the state or ask permission of the state.
Not sure.
It's actually, it would probably go to Marine Patrol. They handle all the moorings. And technically, if it's like a raft doesn't need a permit at this point. You can put a raft in without a permit, which means you can put a mooring block in without a permit. But once you attach a mooring to it, they require a permit, and they want to have registration and whatnot of that mooring. But again, this would just basically replace the barge they're on during the show. The fact is, you've got a mooring halfway in the water, just makes it easier for a diver to find those mooring blocks when it comes time to set up for the show. It's not for other people to use because it's going to be under the surface.
Madam Chair.
Mhm.
You haven't had any conversations with Marine Patrol?
I have not.
Okay. I think that we might need to do that as this evolves, just to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't doubt what you're saying at all. I'm more concerned from the location versus the legality of it. It sounds like you've got the legality of it down, but there may be some restrictions with how deep you would want to put it, just from, let's say, a Marine Patrol operational standpoint. They may say to us, well, we need it 4 feet, not 3 feet. I don't know, so I'm just thinking.
Or they may have never even heard of it.
True. Yeah, I don't think, it seems kind of unique, so they may
Well,
not.
looking at your sketch, it looks like it's 8 feet below the surface, is that what that
Yeah,
says?
that's what I proposed.
That's The mooring wall? or-
Yeah, a float, just, and again, I could make it 10 feet off the bottom. I just want to keep it out of harm's way, so.
You'd be removing that, right?
No, the ball would stay in the wall, stay underwater and mark it, underwater though, so divers could find it, because it's very silty down there. And
You
we've
won't
actually,
find it.
we've actually lost blocks out there before. Because the water's so deep, one year we couldn't get this, we didn't have the long enough spuds, we couldn't reach bottom. So we actually dropped a mooring block off there to tie off the barge, and then they went to get it, and they couldn't, the chain broke when they were lifting it out, and they actually couldn't find the mooring block after that. So it's very silty down there.
I've lost my own in about 6 feet of water. Seriously, I mean, once you take it off, if you don't put a buoy or something on it down by the bottom, the silt covers it over, and during the winter, and you can't find it in the spring.
Madam Chair, one more thing, at 8 feet of water, I don't think we want to interfere with
No,
any.
8 feet under the surface.
That's what I meant, 8 feet, yeah, we're not going to interfere with
Right.
any traffic that's in that area, so.
I worry about, even if the fishermen are trolling by, usually the blob houses aren't even close to the opening, because it's all kept open in the wintertime.
Right,
And to be in that area,
okay.
even if someone's trolling by, there's a chance someone's gonna lose a lure on it.
I'll hook it, right.
Okay, that's the only concern I'd say.
Mhm.
Other comments? It seems to me that, as I said, you should probably, at this point, we need to be approaching the state.
Oh, Marine Patrol.
AKA, Marine Patrol is the state,
Right.
but because we really don't have any say, I don't believe,
Well,
over doing this.
The other issue is who wants to pay for it?
Well,
So let's say Marine Patrol says, yeah, that's fine, you can put it in. Well, I don't think we're gonna put the bill for it, I just,
Well, I fully expect that if the town said, no, we don't want any part of this, that our chapter would either vote to or not to pay for it and do it.
mhm.
I'm not on the board of directors of the chapter, but I have, in Southern California, I'm a past president. And typically, you put it before the board and you go, you guys we have the money, do you want to spend it? You don't know what the vote's going to be till they raise or lower it or keep their hands down, so I can't tell you. I'd like to say we wouldn't even have to come and ask you for any money, and we just do it. But, then, would we own them or not? Or would the state own them? I bet the state would say, well, those are ours now. They landed on our land, they're ours.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
It's always interesting to have new thoughts come in front of us, but at least in first blush, it appears to me that it probably wouldn't be in the best interest for the town of Meredith to finance it in terms of funding. But I can see where, from a safety standpoint, it might be beneficial the day of the event. But I think as far as pursuing this, that we should clearly throw it back to the organization and have them use the resources at the state and see what permitting is required, what's not, get some background and come to us with a firm proposal that preferably would not involve funding by the town of Meredith, from my perspective. But I'm not sure where my fellow board members are coming from on that. But
Hillary?
I would think it would be clearly back in the Anti-Cotobo show's hands to provide us with the answers to some of the questions that probably they already had and that we're voicing. We're not covering new territory, I'm sure. They've already had some discussions, so get some answers to those reasonable questions that are there, and then if there's any sense in proceeding from there, have them come back at a later date.
Mhm.
That's my take right now.
Hillary, did you want to speak?
I was just going to agree with Peter. I think that everything he said pretty much covers it. He said, fellow board members, and I'm one, so I'm agreeing.
Madam Chair,
Phil?
to try to simplify this, it would appear that if there are no restrictions from the state of New Hampshire, i.e. Marine Patrol, and if the Antique Boat Show organization was willing to fund it, that there's no resistance to installing them, correct?
Correct. Is that the consensus of the board? Okay.
So, okay, I just figured.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to us.
Great, thank you very much for coming.
You guys want to keep into this paperwork, for instance?
Please.
This is the laminated one. That's the next picture. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's yours.
Okay, I guess at this point we'll adjourn the workshop at 20 minutes of 5. We'll be back in 10 minutes after a recess for the regular meeting. Meeting workshop adjourned. Good afternoon, welcome to the Meredith Select Board meeting of October 20th, the Meredith Community Center. At this time, I'd ask you to please stand and join the Pledge of Allegiance. Join me in the car.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Will. Sorry about that. Roll call. Hillary Seeger.
Here.
That was just a test. Lou Kahn.
Good afternoon.
Nathan Tor.
Good afternoon.
Vice Chair Peter Brothers.
Good afternoon again.
I'm Carla Horn, Chair. Phil Warren, Town Manager.
Good afternoon.
And Karen Landry, our recording clerk. This time, I'll take a motion to accept minutes.
Madam Chair, I have a correction.
From October 6, 2014.
It shows me as present, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't last time.
I just need a motion and then we'll make corrections.
Okay, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move that we accept the minutes of the October 6, 2014 meeting.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Corrections.
Okay.
Hillary?
I wasn't here on October 6th, and I am being shown as present.
Phil's got it. Okay. Any other corrections or changes?
We will fix that on the final published version.
Okay. Town Manager's Report. Phil? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of you.
No, no. Used oil is accepted at the transfer station, and as we were acutely aware last night, it becomes vital this time of year for heating up facilities. The Conservation Commission is asking for your assistance in cataloging knotweed locations. It's a new project they're taking on. If you're aware of locations around town roadways, please email the location and a picture, if you have it, if possible, to my email address, which is pwarren@meredithnh.org. And as part of this process, as you know, we mow the roadsides once a year. While we're out doing mowing, the operator is actually cataloging the locations of the knotweed. I placed a request for volunteers for the Public Works Building Committee that we discussed conceptually at the last meeting on the website and on our Twitter page. At this time, I would like to know if the board would like to formalize that action to form a Public Works Facility Committee, with the charge being to explore the design, to explore the feasibility, design, and construction of a new public works facility, and for that said committee to have the following as members: 2 members of the Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, Public Works Director, Community Development Director, water and sewer superintendent, and I think if I remember correctly, it was 2 members of the community.
Correct.
Correction, it was 1 member of the Energy Committee and 2 other
It
members
was-
of the community.
Okay,
There we go, thank you.
Thanks.
okay, so if I don't know if the board would like to do that tonight, or,
Do you have any applications back yet?
I do not.
Well, we could certainly formalize the
Absolutely.
formation of the committee. Okay. Go for it.
Well, I just would ask that the board take a vote to form that committee, because it is a subcommittee of the board.
Okay.
And by taking that vote, it's now, there's a little different administration of that committee right now. It's a staff
Right.
committee, so
Sorry about
we'll
that.
have to post meetings, minutes, et cetera. It's all subject to 91A.
Do you have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion that we formally form a committee to explore the feasibility, design, and construction of a Department of Public Works facility consisting of 2 board members, 1, let's see, what was that? Water and Sewer Department head, community development, the town manager, and 2 members of the Public Works Director, absolutely. 2 members of the public and additional from the Energy Committee.
I think that covered it.
I second it.
And that's a total of 9.
Yes.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Do you have a problem if I republicize the request for the volunteers and put a due date in so that you can consider them at the November 2nd meeting?
That'd be great.
Okay. As an update with the public, with what's going on, the company that's doing the feasibility study will be in on that week of November to meet with the Public Works staff, myself, and to go through what's called programming, where they hear from the staff of, what's in the building, and they go through a process similar to the visioning meeting, but it's more geared towards the actual day-to-day operations of the facility, and that goes into their feasibility study. They will probably be out here for the bulk of that day.
It's full inventory too, right?
Yes, full inventory.
What day is that again?
We haven't settled the date, it's the week of November 2nd.
Okay.
The grader, the rear differential failed, and it failed completely. The replacement cost for that's $32,000. It was necessary, as I said, to replace the complete differential. As I said last time, this is a heavily used piece of equipment that has approximately 8,200 hours on it. The distributor is working with Volvo to see if we will get some relief from
Thank you.
the manufacturer, and they actually are aggressively working on it. Just as some background, we purchased this machine in 2004. It has an expected life of at least 15 years. A new grader today would cost approximately $250,000, and the trade-in of this machine today would be greatly diminished, of course, without that rear end replacement. A full value trade-in of this machine, if we were to do this transaction today, would be between $60,000 and $80,000. So it was pretty evident that we, at this point, would have to replace it, where if we didn't and we tried to get another one, we'd be paying full cost, or pretty damn near it, unfortunately.
Madam Chair,
Mm-hmm.
could I ask Phil, is that anywheres in the pipeline, the CIP, for future time?
Well, it's still out because I said it's a 2004 year, and its life expectancy is 15 years. So if it's, minimum life expectancy is 15, depending on maintenance, et cetera, we sometimes run them out a little longer, but right now it is not, because of where it is in the CIP, because we only do 5 years, so.
Yeah.
So, to give you an example, the loader that you have down there, the front end loader, before I got here, long before I got here, the decision was made to put a motor in that because it was in the same situation where the motor failed, but the rest of the equipment was sound, reasonably sound, and it gave it some trade-in value. We also, if you remember in 2009, we put an engine in one of the Kenworths because we had a valve failure on it. Caterpillar helped us with that, but again, the decision was made because the vehicle was sound, and if I'm not mistaken, we still have that vehicle today, the one that we put the motor in.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, so we're 2/3 of the way through the life expectancy of that particular grader. Is there any way we could do a cost-benefit analysis to see whether it would be smart to put the $32,000 into actually replacing it versus trading it in and possibly upgrading it sooner?
That's basically what I did. A new one is $250,000 today.
Lord.
A new one's $250,000. If we traded it in and the machine was in fairly good shape, we'd get between $60,000 and $80,000 for it. Without a rear end replacement, comfortably, I'd say you're gonna have that. So if you're lucky, you're gonna get between 30 and 40, and that's if someone will buy it. So we still end up dishing out $210,000 today.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, but maybe I didn't get the $250,000. It's a piece of equipment that we rely on, but it's not one that we replace on a regular basis.
Thank you.
As I had stated before, we're in process with our budget meetings with the department heads. 95% of them are completed for a goal to get the budget to you by November 2nd. For discussion at your meeting by November 2nd, you'll have it the Thursday before. The Water Department recently completed a sanitary survey. This is where the Department of Environmental Services comes in and analyzes all of your processes, your operation and management of your water source, treatment, filtration, and distribution system. We passed with high regards, noting the excellent job we do in the management of the system. 2 items were noted: a potential upgrade to our filter process, which the study for that is in process. It's called filter to waste, and it's where when you first start out the filtration of water, you actually waste some of that water when you push the water into the filter bed, because while it doesn't violate or doesn't exceed any of the standards for turbidity, which is basically, when folks ask me what turbidity is, it's the floating pieces in your water. It doesn't exceed it. For us, there is a slight spike when we first fill the filter beds. This filter to waste would allow us to take that little bit of water as we fill them and push it back out. So we're doing a study to see if that's possible, and part of that study, just so you're aware, is that the filtration process requires us to backwash our filter beds just like you backwash your pool filter. And right now, all that backwashed water goes into the sewer system. I would tell you it's great for flushing our sewer lines, but as you know, the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program at some point is going to go on a metered system. We don't want to be pushing clear water through the filter system, so we're looking at a way to decant it and return it to the water source. Many other water plants have basically it's called a decant lagoon, which is right outside of your water filtration plant, and the water from the backwash goes into that lagoon, sits there, the filtration byproducts then settle to the bottom, and then you release the water back to your your surface water source. One of our challenges, of course, to doing that is real estate. We'd have to find a place to put that lagoon. But it's one that we're seriously looking at because, again, it would allow us to take all that water out of the Winnipesaukee Basin Program system, which Dan had actually looked at it, and Dan and I had discussed this. That's a significant amount of clear water we're just putting in that we'd be paying for to be treated as effluent. There was another issue too, and it's regards the ownership of the booster station at senior housing, and DES is going to assist us in that process. Our workers' compensation rates are in. Our workers' compensation, the cost for next year will be $126,754. That's a 20% increase, and truly that's not bad considering some of the recent and ongoing losses that we've had. Our unemployment insurance is in. That's down 50% to $7,100. The hazardous waste day assessment's in. That's up 3% to $6,408, which I still think at that level is a bargain. Motorcycle Week Association met and is in the process of forming a budget for the coming year. I've been working on a budget subcommittee formed by this group. This subcommittee's been charged with addressing the expenditure of funds in excess of revenue and the creation of a realistic budget which addresses both past and current obligations. One major step that's being taken is securing the services of an accountant to correct the records and make the process more efficient and put the budgeting on an accrual basis like cities and towns so that a clear annual picture of finances is available. Right now, like a lot of small organizations, they're on what's called cash basis. But cash basis doesn't take into effect whether you collected the money in fiscal year 2014 or 2015. When you go on the accrual basis, it's just like our fiscal years, we don't spend across them. We encumber funds. Also being done is the construction of accounting and financial controls for the organization, as well as formalizing everyday financial procedures and practices. As for the budget, it will probably be resolved at the November meeting, and the budget will be realistic, supported by recurring revenues, and not relying on recurring or non-existent revenues, and will address the debt of the organization, both the credit card debt and the debt to the executive director. You may recognize the terminology used in the revenue and expenditure. I felt it was necessary for me to directly participate on this budget committee to see that this organization continues. Our rooms and meals tax is up approximately $21,000. As it was noted by Chairman Horn, that would probably have been a larger amount if Senator Stiles' bill had passed. Is that?
Because that's based on, right now it's strictly based on population.
Okay.
Versus where it's generated.
Versus where it's generated. Okay. We were happy to see 21,000 at this point because I was a little concerned earlier in the budget season that the shortfall that the state had been reporting on their anticipated excess revenue was lower than thought, and I was concerned that they were going to use some of that money to help out there, but that was not the case. And Madam Chair, that is all I have.
Thank you, Phil. Are there any visitors or residents' comments at this time? Okay. Select board comments. Phil?
A report of the 3 and 25 committee, met on the 9th, I believe. I was looking at the minutes of our last meeting, and if you read those minutes, the portion regarding... If you read the minutes regarding of our last meeting regarding the portion of the 3 and 25 committee, basically that would report what happened at the last meeting of the 3 and 25 committee. The only difference, I would say, is the committee seems to be moving in the direction of a system of 3 roundabouts, but no formal action has been taken. But I'd say that the glacial drift seems to be in that direction. And so Crosspoint has not said exactly what their position is with respect to no left turns in and out of their shopping center. The bank is also reserving its rights, although when we sort of expected both will cooperate and seek a roundabout at Pleasant Street. A roundabout at Pleasant Street would not be for the benefit of traffic coming out of Pleasant Street. It would be for the benefit of traffic on Route 25 to eliminate left turns in and out of the bank and shopping center properties. Coming to the main intersection, there seems to be a feeling that there should be, if anything, a single lane roundabout, although there would be 2 lanes for northbound traffic turning east. There might be slip lanes to sort of funnel traffic out of the roundabout north onto 25, north onto 3, and maybe, I don't see quite how you'd fit them in, but something to take traffic coming southbound on 3 onto Main Street, or from Main Street going southbound onto 3. Then there was a discussion of an interim proposal with an interim light, or an intermittent light. And that was, didn't come out really all that clear, but the thought was that you'd have, for northbound traffic on 3 that intends to continue north on 3, that traffic would have the right-of-way over traffic coming off 25 going west. because if you're in the roundabout, you have the right-of-way over people trying to get into the roundabout. So the question is, how do you, at the times of really heavy traffic going west from 25, how do you keep a few cars going north on 3 from interrupting the flow? And the thought was to use a sort of an intermittent signal that would, you'd funnel the traffic going north on 3 into a single lane with a signal. And the signal would stop them very briefly, and then let one go, and then stop the next one and let that one go. It would be similar to the lights you see on ramps on California freeways. The on-ramps, well, I'm not suggesting we have a California freeway, but the on-ramps have a signal that stops you and then lets one car go and then stops the next one, so that traffic moving in the right lane of the freeway is not interrupted by a sudden flow of traffic coming down the ramp. So that's the interim thought of stopping traffic going north only at times of the heavy flow Sunday afternoon. The other thing is pedestrians. As you move down toward the docks, there was talk of twin elevators and a bridge. That has basically, I think that basically is going by the boards. Phil has been very careful to inter it as quickly as possible. It's very expensive. You're talking about a $250,000 proposition, and the town would have to maintain the elevators. The town would have to clear the bridge, even in the winter. I don't think that's going to happen. So what's the alternative to that? DOT says pedestrian signals like the one up at Rite Aid. And one possibility would be to have signals that get you only halfway across, and then a similar signal that gets you the other way across. That would permit you to change the timing of the signal so that pedestrians, for example, on a Friday night, if you wanted to cross the northbound lane, you'd have to wait longer, whereas you wouldn't have to wait very long to get from the center island over to the Meredith, the shopping centers, not shopping center, the inside. You'd have it in reverse, that at your time of heavy traffic going south on 3, you'd have to wait longer before you could get over to the center island, and then you wouldn't have to wait very long to get across to the docks. That's the current thinking on it.
And what do they call those things?
They call them hawk signals. I don't know what hawk stands for, but I just accept it. It's a hawk signal. Yeah. Spelled like the bird. Going further to the south, you'd have a center island, and you would have it looks like we're moving to a roundabout on. You'd block as you're moving along. You would block left turns in and out of Dover Street. There would be an island blocking that. As you get over to Lake Street, you'd have a roundabout and standard pedestrian crosswalks. I had suggested maybe you run the crosswalks across the roundabout, and I was told that no, that's a never. So, okay. But at least by that point, with the roundabout slowing traffic somewhat, pedestrians would have a fighting chance of getting across. And then we haven't really discussed anything further than that. We're basically, if we did all of those things, I think we'd basically be using up most of the federal grant. And there is the possibility of I think a likelihood, say, of some widening of 3, so that traffic turning left into Church Landing doesn't hold up traffic behind it. I don't think, you might not even need a left turn lane for that, but who knows. If you had money left over, you might consider doing something up at the 104 intersection, but I have real doubt as to whether or not with the other works that there would be anything left for 104. But if the state were to come up with more money, possibility, maybe you do something there. Where does this get you? It gets you that on Friday night, the northbound traffic is gonna move a lot better, okay? If all of this were done, the northbound traffic on Friday night would move a lot better. I've noticed that it also jams up on Saturday morning going northbound. Would you get a major improvement or any improvement for the westbound traffic on Sunday? That's kind of problematical. Some years ago, they concluded that on the basis of 2006 traffic data, that a single lane roundabout would work for a while. But then at that point, they were using growth estimates that were based on the 80s, and they were just completely out of line. Now they're using growth estimates of 1% traffic increase per year. And I got my doubts about that. But, so a single lane roundabout might work to improve things for a while, but then after that, it might be business as usual on Sunday afternoon. What you would have is, with a single lane roundabout, you wouldn't have to invade Scenic Park to get the 2 lanes going eastbound. And you have a lot less pavement around the intersection, and then opportunities for places for pedestrians and for landscaping and things like that. We're meeting again November 9th. 9th? No, it's not the 9th, it's something like the 6th. The 6th. The problem that we're facing here, folks, is that Phil feels that unless we get to a public hearing in November, which is highly unlikely, that our budget and sort of pre-town meeting schedule is such that and the absence of a second meeting in February, that we wouldn't get to a public hearing until March. I find that a little scary because I've been cracking the whip, and that schedule takes the whip right out of my hand, but it also means that the thing kind of lies fallow for months. So I guess one question I might consider, although I wouldn't schedule it now because I can't say that I can meet the schedule, is could we fit in a special board meeting, a special public hearing, somewhere, say, in January, or I don't think you want to do it the first week of February, maybe January somewhere. Just think about it, because I can't say that the committee will get there.
You look at that schedule, it's pretty doggone tight, late January, February, even with which is...
Well, you got a budget hearing the first week of February.
But
Yeah, what usually happens is we end up deliberating the budget in December. Usually the first meeting in December, we don't do budget, but we have those 3 nights. And then usually the second meeting in December, we don't touch on it because we usually have more information that comes back. And at the first 2 meetings in January, if you remember, we've reconsidered items in the budget, getting ready for the public hearing, which is in February. Matter of fact, one year I think we did have a special meeting in January to make it somewhere along the way there before town meeting. So I would, while I'd love to say the second meeting in January, that's the one right before the budget hearing, so you're probably going to do something that night. The first meeting in January is January 5th.
I can't promise that the committee would be ready then, but I think it would be. I think it would.
And actually you're not going to have a third meeting in January unless you have a special one, because that's Civil Rights Day. So you're only going to have 1 meeting in January. And then you're only
One meeting in January, one meeting in
February, unless you schedule a special one. We've been through this before with that.
And we just may have to do that. I think the intention would be, if it was necessary, we'd try to find a way. At least I would. I would try to find a way.
I get worried about getting the engineering started on a project if we agree to a project.
Yeah.
And letting it sit around until the first meeting in March is a long ways off.
Well, how about we do this then? We tentatively schedule it for the 26th of January. That would be your 4th Monday of the month.
Yeah.
Tentatively schedule it for that. Lou, that would give you for
Well,
the committee.
I think at this next, I've said this before and been wrong before, but I think that this next meeting of the committee will see whether or not we've got something.
Okay.
And, all the details will not have been ironed out, but I think we will see whether or not, I said this at the last meeting of the committee, and to my amazement, none of the press picked it up. But that I had the sense that a majority of the committee was heading for a roundabout system.
Good report, thanks.
Thanks, Lou. Time and date again of your next meeting for the public's benefit?
Thursday, November 6th,
Thursday, yes.
What time?
3 p.m. at the community center.
Thanks, Lou. And Peter, to answer your question, HAWK is high-intensity activated crosswalk. Depending on location geometrics, they are $75,000 to $150,000.
Do they spell crosswalk with a K?
Well, strikes is a K, right?
Any other selectmen reports?
Just a quick comment, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The Energy Committee, I was not able to attend it. I know Peter did, and I want to congratulate them. They did an excellent job in their presentation last Saturday. Peter, maybe?
It was well attended. My wife and I were both there working it and enjoying the different presentations, lectures. We had a pretty good cross-section of people by 12:30. When I left, there was still a couple of hours, but it seemed like there was a fair amount of interest. Judging from some of the raffle prizes, we seem to have attracted, people from the entire Lakes region area. So John may have given you an update, but at community development, but it seemed like it was very well received. And of course, I think having it at the high school and tying it in with the school was part of a good plan. So there was a lot going on up there that weekend between football games heading to Guilford, and the teachers had a yard sale auction event to benefit the food pantries, and this event it was certainly all the lights were on. Nice event.
Good feedback. And I suppose we could also commend John and Angela and the Energy Committee, because I know that they've put in an enormous amount of work into that, to educate the public on energy efficiency and the like.
Ditto there.
Any other selectmen's comments? Okay. New business and no new business. I just have a comment, Phil, with the voting, the election day coming up. Could we post or share our poll duty schedule again?
Yep.
amongst us?
I'll send it out.
Everyone will probably do the same coverage, but just so that we are covered.
Yeah, I'll send it right out.
Good.
Old business, 14-32, Feener Street numbering decision. Phil?
Madam Chair, as you're aware, we received an email requesting reconsideration of this decision. Mr. Feener is here tonight. I think that the process probably should be that Mr. Feener could go up to the podium there and state his request.
Just be sure the red light is on the microphone. And just state your name, please.
Good afternoon, my name is Glenn Feener. As my email stated, last October, I had a hearing with the Select Board regarding the number to be assigned to my Sawmill Shores property. It was denied, and at the end of the meeting, it was stated that the town manager would explore alternatives to my request and see if we can find a solution. And I haven't heard anything from anyone since then. So this is kind of, I gave it a year and I'm here again. The reason in the minutes says that I was denied was that our lot is a vacant lot, and vacant lots are not eligible for street numbers. Since that time, I have found that there are at least one other lot in the town of Meredith on 67 Barney Ridge Road that is a vacant lot. I have the tax sheet here, it says on it vacant. It's owned by the town of Meredith. Obviously, that lot was granted an exception. And the town said that assigning a number to that lot was a mistake. Mr. Warren said that to me, told me that when I visited him this last time. And that, I guess, my feeling is whether it was a mistake or not, it didn't seem to affect the 911 system. I mean, it hasn't collapsed and life goes on. My lot is one of the few lots with unique conditions. If you assigned my lot a number, it wouldn't automatically open up a floodgate of people looking for numbers for vacant lots. I mean, those people, if they had a vacant lot and wanted a number, they'd still have to come to this board and request a number. It wouldn't change anything. It would just, my unique circumstances should be given special consideration, I guess. There are ways through the town when you have something to be considered, if you're asking something that the law doesn't provide. I guess, I don't know if I'm stating that correctly or not, but if I wanted a zoning variance, I'd go before the zoning board. The board would hear me out. They'd decide whether I was right or wrong, or whether I deserved anything by me proving my point. I've done that for a zoning variance. And I've also done it for a special exception. If you wanted, I wanted a driveway. My land wasn't set up for a driveway. I went before the board for a special exception. I pleaded my case. They heard it and decided that I was entitled to a driveway. I don't see why this question can't be addressed in the same way. Like I said, the giving me a number, that the option to give me a number, or the option for anybody to get a number, already exists for any property owner if he brings the request before the board. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Mr. Feener. Do board comments back to Mr. Feener?
Madam Chair, also,
Okay.
just as part of this, we have Chief Ken Jones here tonight. Chief Morrow, police chief, is ill, and we have, and I apologize because I don't know the gentleman's name from E911 here, if there's any questions for either one of those folks. If I could, by background, I think that was the process you went through, Mr. Feener, was that you appealed it to the board last year?
Yes.
And similar to what you said, like for a special exception, that was the process that you went through last year, and the board voted, if I'm not mistaken, 3-2 not to grant you that relief?
Yes.
And it was based on, as you can see in the minutes that are here, that decision was based on information that was provided by the John Edgar through the requests and information from both the conflict that it creates with our E911. And Mr. Feener is absolutely correct. That lot on Barnard Ridge Road does have a street number. That was probably assigned in 1969 when that subdivision was laid out, long before E911, long before we did numbering. And I cannot tell you definitively that there are not others in town. But as part of the E911 analysis, the mapping project, we're going to visit every parcel in town and check every record. And if we find others, they would show up on what's called a non-standard list. And those items would be addressed and/or corrected by the board at that time. But as we've stated in the past, the goal is not to make it worse. It's to try and stay consistent with the E911 guidelines.
Madam Chair, Mr. Feener, I did speak with the postmaster in Meredith after reading back through this, and they said that they won't deliver mail to a vacant lot regardless of whether or not it has a number.
That's not what they told me.
That's what they told me today. The acting postmaster, her name is Kim.
Okay, I spoke with Jamie Good, the postmaster, this summer, and actually he put a whole lot of time into it with me. I went back and forth with him for weeks, and he tried to find a solution for me. He said that if the town did assign a number to me, he is obligated to deliver mail to that address, because basically my lot is a driveway to my island property. Just as you can get mail delivered to the foot of your driveway to your residence, I should be able to get mail delivered to the foot of my driveway, which is on Sawmill Shores Road. The way Jamie Good left it with me was that the only way that I could get mail delivered was to go through New Hampton, because New Hampton did have a number assigned on my island property. That would mean for me driving 25 miles to get my mail back every day, which is a little ridiculous, I think. I don't think anybody would like to do that if you have a driveway and you have the option of having a mailbox at the foot of your driveway. So that's the way we left it.
It just conflicts with the information I was given when I spoke with them today.
Okay.
So I was just letting you know what I heard.
Okay, well, maybe you should speak with Jamie Good.
I tried to, and they said he was not available, and that this woman was the postmaster acting for the foreseeable future. So that was what I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments? I have a question and I believe it's probably going to reflect what I said the last time, relative to the ordinance. And I do feel that this is a unique situation, and I would like to maybe find out from, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, sir, but maybe for me personally to ask the question, would putting a number on this lot on Sawmill Shores be a detriment to the town or to our first responders in any way?
Madam Chair, let me introduce representing the state of New Hampshire Emergency Communication Division,
Ken,
E91 representative.
can you do me a favor, just step up to the mic and do it, the both of you, just so that, what happens is you cannot hear the voice at all at home on TV. And I know you're working on your Broadway debut, so.
It's Joe. Thank you, Phil. I'd like to introduce here, representing from State of New Hampshire Division of Communications, E91 Representative Casey Gordon. We contacted him. As you know, we are scheduled to be mapped here in this town in the immediate future. I understand we're about 12 months out. Try to take care of some of the headaches that we have now as far as emergency responses to certain areas. And with that, I'll let Casey step up and you can address any questions to him.
Thanks, Chief.
Welcome.
As an overall statement, the town has the final and overall say on addressing issues in the given town. We have addressing standards that when towns ask me for addressing advice, it's a prism that I look through it. And we don't, as a general rule, assign vacant lots addresses. In the 911 system, we map the towns. These are the maps that pop up in the dispatches when you dial 911. There's no symbol for a vacant lot. We have addressable structures. We assign addresses to those. Vacant lots are vacant lots, and we don't, as a rule, assign addresses to those. It would be an infinite number of addresses, and we address structures, we address what's out there, but as a general rule, we don't.
So can I ask you again, if we hypothetically, we made an exception for Mr. Feener, would it be a detriment to the town or to Ken or to the police department to number that lot? That's just my personal question.
Madam Chair, I think that might be a little bit more directed to the chiefs.
Well, either, it doesn't matter who answers it.
And I know that there's a question about which town would be responsible, depending on the location. I know that was your concern, Ken, wasn't it, in the past? Because I know,
No, I'm just trying to be as fair as we can as a board, because I don't really think that this situation will come up frequently. I think probably it is a very unique situation where if there's an island property and the gentleman owns a piece of property in Meredith where he accesses his property, I'm just trying to be reasonable and fair about it, but if it's going to be a detriment to you or to the town, then that would reflect on my decision to do this.
I think clearly I stated that a year ago, that puts some possible confusion into our emergency response system, having really 2 addresses to 1 location. And the place is in New Hampton, and by doing, his residence is in New Hampton. By assigning that address in Meredith, if something was to happen out there, then there's possibly 2 addresses that come into play to a certain residence. And that's where we work of possibly having some confusion in emergency response.
and if I could add to it, Madam Chair, you're asking about the detriment of the community and that it's a unique situation. In one aspect, it is a unique situation. But if I'm the next person with a vacant lot, I'm not going to view it as a unique situation. I'm going to say that, you've already set some sort of precedent here, and I've got a situation where I'd like my vacant lot numbered, and you're going to end up with some circular discussion on that.
Like the zoning board decisions, each one is unique. That's how I'm trying to look at this. I'm trying to be fair, but if it's not reasonable, then that's why I would like to have this discussion a little bit deeper. Lou?
I think it has to be understood that we are not embarking on a program of numbering vacant lots. All we've got here is 1 lot where the emergency response probably going to be better if it came to Meredith than if it came to, New Hampton, because he's out on an island, and New Hampton isn't going to be able to save him or his home. And basically, if we respond to Sawmill Shores, that's, in case of personal injury or something like that, that's where the response is going to have to be, because nobody's going to save limb or property out on that island. And I see it as, I was in the minority voting for it last year. I'm going to vote for it again, because I see it as a weird individual situation that's not going to be repeated. And I don't think that, if somebody comes to us and says, oh yeah, I've got 5 vacant lots up on, Pease Road, I'd like to number them, say, well, that's very interesting, go build on them and then we'll number them. All right, I just see this as a very different situation. I don't see the 911 system collapsing as a result of giving Mr. Feener a number, and I'm going to vote for it again. On the other hand, Herb Vadney, who joined me in voting for it, isn't here again, so got to find somebody else.
Hillary?
I have a question, and maybe somebody can help me with this. How many lots are there like this? You have a driveway on this lot, Mr. Feener?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, but he has a driveway on this lot. How many other little places are there like this that are leading out to island properties? How many people are going to come and say, I need this? And then I guess I'm going down the same path that y'all were. I don't see where everybody up on a vacant lot's going to come and ask for the same thing either, so I'm just curious. And why wouldn't we treat it like a zoning, an individual decision? Just trying to get facts here, because I wasn't here last year.
Madam Chair, if I would, I'd like to address Mr. Khan before I get too far away. In response, it's not up to Meredith to determine if we're going to respond to that incident, whether if it's an EMS or a fire incident. His residency is in New Hampton. It's up to the New Hampton officials to determine who's going to respond to that. More than likely, New Hampton Fire Chief has us on his run card for that area, as we are on other areas within New Hampton, and help support New Hampton for some of the areas such as they return to us. But it's not our decision whether if we're going to respond there first without that being on New Hampton's run card. So, again, for it to come in as a Meredith incident, that's not up to us. It's up to New Hampton to determine that. And by adding 2 addresses to really, I see, 1 residency, That's where the confusion's gonna come in emergency response.
To answer Hillary's question, Madam Chair, I think there's probably a handful of these, what I call landing zone, and they're more on Winnipesaukee than they are. I think probably Waukee, Mr. Feener's is probably the only one. But on Winnipesaukee, there's a few where people have, their island, their lot where they park cars, and they use it as access to access Bear Island and some of the other town islands. And there's no structure on there, they just park vehicles on it. They're very few now, of course, because of the value of lakefront property, but there are a couple down in the Powers Road area and the Y Landing area.
Nate?
Just a quick thought here, something down the middle of the road may be wacky. What would have to be done to make it considered a non-vacant lot?
Have to have a structure on it.
No, excuse me, what's considered a building or what's considered?
It'd have to be basically either some type of residence, single-family home, etc.
Madam Chair, can I speak to you?
Sure.
At the last year, the meeting, when we addressed this, Chief Jones made it quite clear that he relied not on lot numbers, but on GPS when he responded to emergencies. He said his GPS was how would you say, correct, or it could dial into within 10 feet of an emergency. So if that's the case, if I call from my island property, he's going to know it's my island property. If I call from my Sawmill Shores Road property, he's going to know it's from my Sawmill Shores Road property. So what difference in the 911 system does it make if I have a number or not? That's not the point. The point is I have no way to give directions or receive mail or receive UPS shipments or anything else that everybody else has because I don't have a number. The 911 system is already taken care of by GPS. It really has very little to do, according to Chief Jones, with the lot number.
All right.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Feener. Do you have a landline out on the island, or are you using cell phones?
Cell phone.
Thank you.
Well,
I suggest we call for a vote.
I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we give Mr. Feener a street address number.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, I guess Mr. Feener gets a house number.
Thank you.
It's being understood that other owners of vacant lots need not take that as a precedent.
You can say that all you like. The precedent just was set, my friend.
No, Peter, I don't agree.
You don't have to agree. You can't make that statement.
Well, you can make the argument that it's a precedent. I will say, yeah, you've got a house in one town and a boat in another town, and I don't see this precedent.
Before I adjourn the meeting, I will need a motion to go into non-public per RSA 91-A, :3, Roman numeral 2C. Matters discussed in public may be damaging to one's reputation.
I saw that.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor of going into non-public?
All of us, yes.
Madam Chair?
Are you in favor?
I am, yeah.
Well, you're going to take the poll vote after.
Yep, right.
I'm sorry. Where do I go to get my number?
I'll take care of it right now.
Okay.
You'll be notified.
00.
Good luck with the post office.
Thank you.
And so now I will adjourn the regular board meeting.
All right.